Today will be a little bit different than my usual. One thing that I want to add to my repertoire is occasionally talking about gear. So today I will be unboxing and taking a look at the DUM Audio System. I did record this unboxing a couple of days ago, and I discovered that unfortunately my audio did not work properly. So apologies for this recording, that the audio will be a little bit poor for the actual unboxing. I also had a little bit of an accident during my unboxing, so maybe I'll add that as a post-credits scene. So it was a bit of a $800 mistake that I had made. In the interest of transparency, when talking to DUM Audio, we talked a little bit about my experience in the audio industry, so potentially I might be doing some consulting work for them on the marketing side. So we both agreed it was not appropriate to do a full-on review. So based on that, you could sort of make your own conclusions from what you're seeing in the video and then sort of research the product further if it's of any interest. So without further ado, let's get into the unboxing.
So what we have here today is the DUM Audio passive speakers, passive subwoofer, turntable, and integrated amplifier. Everything that you need to have kind of an all-in-one music listening system. So whether you want to listen to records or just stream some Bluetooth audio, this is a pretty handsome system for you to consider. Let's get into it. This is going to be kind of awkward because these boxes are massive. I actually, when this arrived, I actually hurt my back lifting it into my house, so it is pretty heavy duty. And right away we are greeted with let's take a look at these. First thing, we have some nice cables packed into foam. Nothing else there, just some cables. And here we go. Oh, that has some heft to it. Wrapped up nicely. And ooh, that is a pretty handsome speaker. And that's two. These are pretty large because they are probably covering me completely. So we have a nice set of passive speakers. These come with 7-inch drivers and a 1-inch silk dome tweeter. So this is a set of passive speakers. Here at the back we have our 5-way binding posts and a ported cabinet, so that will help with some of our bass extension. And really quite a nice design. What's interesting on the front is it has, their logo and mixed kind of into the tweeter. Again, just an interesting design that I haven't seen on many speakers. It's more decorative than I've seen on other speakers. So there's almost a, this has kind of a mid-century vibe, but it also kind of incorporates a little bit of an Art Deco feel to it. So these are pretty fine looking. They do include some speaker wire. I'm not sure of the length of it. So with these, we have a nice banana plug design, so you don't have to do any wire stripping or kind of fiddling. You just plug these right into the speaker, into the amplifier, and you are set to go. And these allow for a nice tight connection. So this is a nice, more premium cable than you would get with some kind of other out-of-the-box speakers. And oftentimes speakers don't even come with speaker wire. So this is kind of the first clue into what this system represents, which it is that everything that you need is included. All in one, you don't have to worry about it. It's that DUM Audio. Their whole kind of mantra is music should be simple. You don't have to worry about smart speakers, complexity. So I think this is one piece of that puzzle. Most people would argue that speakers are the most important aspect of your whole audio system. So that's where you want to spend your budgets. That's where you want to do your research and make sure that it is the sound that you are looking for. A lot of people get themselves some speakers and a turntable and they're off to the races. But one thing that people don't always think about in an audio system is a subwoofer, unless you're a diehard audio person. But those kind of entering, they don't necessarily consider a subwoofer being a critical part of that system that they assemble. So I don't know if this is part of their entire package, but it is an option. So here there is a passive subwoofer. So once again, we have a cable, and we have some floors, some, I'm guessing, floor spikes or still feet. It's pretty hefty. Now this is kind of an interesting design for a subwoofer than what you normally see. It's very tall and thin. Often subwoofers for an audio system tend to be a big box because you do want that large cabinet. So let's see. It's not light. So again, really interesting design with the very thin nature of this cabinet. You've got your port at the bottom and your connections here. I'm curious what the kind of optimal placement for this is, just because it is a different shape than I'm used to seeing. But it's heavy, it's big, and it's got a nice driver at the front. I don't even remember what size it is. I'd be very curious, but it is. This is intriguing. Next, we are onto the brain of your system, the integrated amplifier. So one of the things to consider in getting a system is how compact you want it to be. So let's say you want a turntable system. Really, you need 4 components that may be built into various parts of the system. So basically you need a turntable, a preamplifier, amplifier, and speakers. A number of those components can be built into each other. With the kind of all-in-one systems, obviously that's built all into one. With something like this, that's all separated. Okay, now we'll get back to that. So first off, we have a manual. So that's the first product here that actually comes with any kind of literature. Some RCA cables, power cable. More foam. Very securely packaged. Here we have the amplifier. Now that is a fine looking amplifier, and you don't see a lot these days that have this, more vintage aesthetic. A lot of modern amplifiers obviously don't have this look to it, but I am a big fan of this. So on the back here we have our outputs for our speakers and our subwoofer. We have 2 analog inputs, so you could plug in a turntable, a CD player. Then we have what looks like aux input, so you could put in an iPad or streaming player of some kind. And we have a ground terminal for the turntable as well. Okay, and then we have our knobs, and then some EQ adjustments, volume, sub adjustments. So this is pretty simple, but definitely have some high hopes for it. And again, very interesting design here with a bit of that Art Deco flair. As I was mentioning earlier, the components that you need in a turntable system, sometimes that amplifier is built into the speakers, in which case those are powered speakers. You could have a turntable that plugs directly into speakers. Sometimes the preamp is built into the amplifier, sometimes the preamp is built into the turntable, sometimes it's built into the speakers, sometimes it's its own separate unit as well. So there's so many of these combinations that you could do. You could adjust to flavor. And a lot of people, when they're building a system, they have very specific tastes and sound signatures that they are looking for, while others are looking for a more simple solution. This kind of lays it out for you in really the three main pieces of the speakers, the turntable, and the amplifier. The sub is sort of a bonus, but those are kind of the primary things that you need. Here we have the turntable, and we've got ourselves some more literature. That's our clear dust cover, a bag of accessories, inside the box we also have a platter at the bottom. This is the fun part, the big reveal. Okay, here we have the DUM Audio Turntable. So it is a belt drive turntable. It has a built-in bypassable preamp. So that means if you do not want to use the preamp in here, you can buy an external one, which means you would have the preamp in between this unit and the amplifier. On the back, very simple. You have your preamp option and your RCA inputs, as well as your ground terminal. And then we have our speed selector of 33, off, and 45. We have a pre-mounted Ortofon 2M Red Cartridge, which is probably one of the most popular cartridges on a consumer turntable. Probably what I would do for this, personally, I would just take off that stylus, pop on a 2M blue stylus, and this would be my end game. That's as much upgrading as I would feel the need to do. Because the stylus plays such an important factor in the sound signature, I really happen to like that cartridge. We'll have a little bit of assembly to do before we get going. We also have some adjustable feet at the bottom, so that is critical because you do need to have your turntable level on whatever surface that you're placing it on. We get a stylus brush. One thing to be careful is I need to buy stylus fluid to clean various styli, but on the 2M Red, I believe they don't recommend using that fluid, so just be careful with stuff like that. Power cord. Okay, we've got our hinges for the dust cover, counterweight. That's probably a cover for the motor. And some RCA cables with the built-in ground wires. So you have everything that you need to get her set up. I'll probably spend some time with the instructions to see how to get it all set up properly. One thing I saw recently on they had an email blast today actually, is that they're including a stylus gauge with their packages. So that's kind of a nice bonus. I mean, those cost about 15 bucks on Amazon if you wanted to pick one up. But that's just a nice way of ensuring that you get the right tracking force for your tone arm. So it's good that they're including that. If you don't have one yet, you can pick one up very easily. So there will be some assembly required for me. I'll have to move around my system a little bit. But this looks like a really cool system to get all hooked up. You know, one thing I do love the aesthetic of it. It does have that mid-century look to it. It matches my my console unit actually almost too closely. So I'm not sure if that will clash, but I think it's a really good looking system, and I think what they're trying to market here is that all-in-one system, that everything you need. You'll find lots of suggestions of people saying that, you know, there will be components at better price points or better performance, but I think what they're selling here is that complete package and that simplicity for, you know, a music enthusiast, not necessarily an audiophile. And this is the type of system that, you know, just from the looks of it, like it looks pretty solid. Like you get it set up and you're kind of good to go. You don't need to do a ton of upgrading over time. So that's who it's not for, because there's a lot of audio enthusiasts. They get into the hobby and they start upgrading components and pieces, and I don't think this has that sort of that upgradability in its DNA. You know, certainly you could upgrade a preamp, you could change out these components over time, but I think this really is designed to be that kind of one-shot deal for somebody that just wants a nice complete audio system. So if you're interested, check them out. I'll be playing with it for a little while, see how it compares to the rest of the stuff that I've heard. But it looks like a nice little system. So if you're interested, check them out. They're a fellow Canadian company, so I'll leave their details in the description if you want to check them out. You could buy them directly on their website as of now. I'm not sure if that will ever change over time. You know, one reason that I think this system makes sense for a certain group of people is an article recently came out. I think it was Luminate that did a study that 50% of vinyl buyers in the last year do not own a record player. So I think there's a ton of people that so far have approached vinyl or buying records as merch or as collectibles, and they haven't kind of experienced vinyl from the, you know, as a medium to actually listen to music. So I think this makes sense for that type of user who wants to get into a system, doesn't want to do a ton of research on, you know, really integrating those components and getting all the stuff to match, because that part of the process is, you know, making sure that your speakers and amplifier are a good fit together, you know, and what turntable will best suit your needs, because there's so many options. The fact that this is that all-in-one system without it physically being one unit, I think is a draw for that kind of user who is getting into the market. And again, this is not a cheap system either. So this is for someone who has a little bit more cash to spend on a system and is not just going to get a low-cost all-in-one unit. This is a bit of an investment, and you want that statement piece in your living room. So that's kind of who this is geared toward. So some details on the turntable. I forget if I covered everything, but there is the built-in preamp, the pre-installed DUM Red Cartridge. So with some turntables you do have to install the cartridge, and that is a little bit of a hassle for more amateur users. This is a fixed head shell, so this is not a removable one. Some turntables offer a removable head shell. One great feature that this does have is it's considered semi-automatic, so it has an auto stop feature. So I believe, if I read the details correctly, so this will stop the record after a while. My normal turntable does not have that, so if I forget, if I leave, once the record is done, it will continue spinning. It'll actually just wear out your stylus. So if you left for a weekend, whatever, left that on, that could do some damage to a very pricey piece or a component of your system. Got a aluminum tone arm. It is a belt drive, so that's the other thing to consider when you're buying a system is, do you want a belt drive or direct drive? There are pros and cons to each of those systems, and some people are very pro direct drive because they do have basically a higher torque. They get to speed faster, and they have typically a more accurate speed, whereas belt drive sometimes does not have as accurate of a speed, but belt drives tend to be a little bit quieter. So sometimes from direct drives you do get a little bit of motor noise.
So there you have it. There was my unboxing of the DUM audio system. Now I've had a number of days to play around with it a little bit, and I've got to say, in terms of assembly, It took me about 10 minutes to put together. It was super easy, everything was straightforward, and I barely used any of the manuals. In terms of the sound quality, I was quite surprised and pleased that it did sound very good, especially the speakers. They're probably my favorite part of the system. And even the subwoofer, I had something going here and I was upstairs and I could actually feel the vibration in the floor. So definitely a system worth checking out if you're looking for a complete stereo system to play all your music. If you're interested in me covering more products, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming.
And I just knocked over my tower speaker. We'll add that to the blooper reel. Hopefully that didn't break anything inside. Well, it did break my front baffle. That didn't go as planned. It's a good thing I have a new set of speakers because I just mine. Whew. Okay.